Now, I'm not usually one to base video ideas on rumours alone, but seeing all the rumours about Guanyu Zhou joining F1 next year have got me thinking. Being the first to do anything is a special thing, one that cannot be matched by anything else because it can only be done once. Neil Armstrong was the first human to set foot on the moon, Edmund Hillary was the first to reach the peak of Everest, and the first to receive the vaccine for COVID-19 was a woman called Margaret Keenan. All of these people will forever be remembered for being the first. Coming first in a race is also a good thing, and someone who is no stranger to that feeling is Guanyu Zhou, who has amassed 4 wins in his time in Formula 2 and is currently just 15 points behind the championship leader. He's reportedly the favourite to get the last remaining seat in Formula 1 for next year, thanks to an investment of over $30 million, or to put that in perspective, enough to buy 2 Formula 1 cars. Bear in mind that even the most severe of accidents don't cause more than $2 million to repair, and that means that the potential cost of having a rookie in the car would be offset by the immense funding he brings. This would make Zhou the first ever Chinese Formula 1 driver. But why? And by asking why, I'm asking 2 questions. Why is Guanyu Zhou the first Chinese F1 driver, and why is Guanyu Zhou the first? Why haven't there been Chinese F1 drivers in the past? The first ever Chinese Grand Prix was held in 2004 and was attended by 260,000 fans. For a country with a population of over 1 billion at the time, these were very small numbers, but it was after all the first year of its running, and the amount of fans in attendance doesn't reflect how many people could have been watching it at home. Among the 260,000 in attendance was a young Guanyu Zhou, who was captivated by the sport and began karting in 2007. Another Chinese driver, who was 12 years older than Guanyu Zhou, began his car racing career in 2005. And while the results he was producing left a lot to be desired, he was still one of the very few Chinese drivers to get that far. The limited appeal in motorsport in China is a difficult issue to pin down. However, one of the reasons would surely be that in the 1980s, China looked like this. Meanwhile, countries like Britain and France were already well established in the motorsport world, and economically they were far ahead of China. In 2000, just 20 years on from 1980 and 1 year after Guanyu Zhou's birth, China looked like this. The growth of China's economy has facilitated the growth of Chinese motorsport, as in 1980 the money required to fund such a career was just not there. 20 years on from 2000, China looked like this, and today it looks like this. It's no wonder then that motorsport has only just become a popular pastime in China, as China only really joined the developed world 30 years ago. The name of the driver who I mentioned began his car racing career in 2005 was Ma Qinghua, who almost reached Formula 1 in the early 2010s, having been the HRT and then the Caterham test driver. Upon missing his shot at Formula 1, Ma went on to Formula E and has struggled, so Guanyu Zhou is the first Chinese driver to offer a glimmer of hope to his nation. China is a country of great national pride, and the money that is being put behind Zhou's career very much proves that. They want to see a Chinese Formula 1 driver, and Guanyu Zhou is their best shot to date. The reason then that Guanyu Zhou could be China's first F1 driver is that China has lacked the infrastructure to support a career in motorsport up until now. While I have no doubt that motorsport was not invisible to Chinese people pre-1990, I believe it would be fair to say that a Chinese person would just not have had the opportunities to join the grid until then. Zhou was born at the exact time he needed to be, really, in order to be a Formula 1 driver for China, but even then he felt the need to move to the UK in 2012 to give him the best chances he could get. I hope that Guanyu Zhou represents the first of many Chinese F1 drivers, and given the rate of development in China, I don't see it as impossible that another Chinese motorsport prodigy could come around in the next few years. Perhaps Zhou's entry into the sport could fuel the dreams of other Chinese motorsport fans, and therefore we would see a lot of Chinese drivers who begin their karting careers in 2022. So, what about the other phrasing of the question? Why is Zhou China's best shot at F1 and not someone else? His career hasn't really been that remarkable when compared to people like Callum Ilott or Oscar Piastri, but That's not answering the question. It's about what Zhou can offer against another Chinese driver, and the fact that he's the only one close to F1 has no doubt been an asset he's used to attract such funding. His career, while not stellar, has been pretty good too. He was troubled by bad luck in last year's F2 season, and with those woes behind him this year, he looks a solid driver, and one that I believe his Chinese sponsors can trust to perform reasonably well. His outings in F1 so far have been quite impressive as well, given how the trend indicates that he takes a longer time than most to adjust to a new category. In terms of when he was born, the stars had very much aligned, but he took advantage of that and has progressed through the ranks in a way no Chinese driver before him has. The $30 million investment could be huge for Alfa Romeo, potentially allowing them to climb up the ladder into 2022 and produce a quality car for whoever it may be in 2023 to drive. Therefore, I see it as a no-brainer for them to sign Zhou for next year. Even if he is only there for the 1 year, $30 million is an enormous sum of money, even by Formula 1 standards. Antonio Giovinazzi has continued to be impressive in qualifying for the team, but his races still leave a lot to be desired, and the fact is that he's a Ferrari driver before he's an Alfa Romeo driver, so his long-term future with the team is not certain. Not to mention, Alfa Romeo have just signed Valtteri Bottas for next year, so Giovinazzi's experience will be less valuable to the team than it would be if he were alongside a rookie. However, it must of course be mentioned that experience isn't everything, and in terms of raw pace, Giovinazzi is obviously much more valuable to the team than Guanyu Zhou could be, at least right now. The money that Zhou brings makes him a worthier candidate for a midfield seat than Giovinazzi, as much as it pains me to say it. This is because he more than makes up for a talent deficit financially. The money he's bringing in is earned through his ability to move through the ranks of motorsport and impress sponsors. This ability has set him apart from people who have come before him, such as Ma Qinghua, and as a result, he's on the cusp of being China's first F1 driver.